Hey everybody, this is Khara CrossFit Brindle. I have another video with Alex again today. Hi Alex, say hi to everybody.
Hi everybody, how are you guys? How you doing, Carl?
I'm doing well. Thanks for jumping in here with me.
Yes,
I know I reached out to you last week because I had a topic in mind that I want our viewers to be aware of. And disclaimer, this might ruffle some feathers. You're all
right.
allowed to have your own opinions. But this has come up twice in about 2 weeks. So it's on my radar, and I asked Alex to have a conversation with me about it. And the conversation topic today is it therapeutically appropriate to say I'm proud of you to a client or a supervisee? There it is, viewers.
Yes.
That's the question we're asking today. So, a little bit of context. Where do I stand? Where does Alex stand? We both have our opinions. We want to think about what your stance is, but there are some justifications on our end as mental health leaders as to why we are not in favor of saying I'm
Mhm.
proud of you. So, Alex, do you want to jump in first with some of your
Sure.
thoughts of what comes up when I bring this to the table?
Yes. So just to give you a little background on, I work with addiction and I work with trauma clients. And so I have a lot of attachment clients with attachment trauma, with a lot of abuse, a lot of substance history, where there's a lot of codependency. And so I'm very mindful and aware that saying a statement as "I'm proud of you" can trigger and can cause some reaction in clients of unresolved issues, whether they're aware of it or not. And so I'm very mindful that I do not say, I don't want their success to be my success, or they want their progress dependent on me and my verbal
Mhm.
affirmation. It's all their work, it's all their chicken, it's all their process. And so I'm very cautious on there's powers in words, and so I'm cautious on how I use them. Instead, if I see that they're moving forward and I see there's progress, I like to put it back on them. For example, I would say, hey, instead of saying I'm proud of you, I would say, listen, in the last 3 months, 6 months, I've been noticing movement, and I point out the positive steps and choices they've made. Based on that, how do you feel? Can you see your progress? And then
Mhm.
allow them to sit with that reality. Like, yes, I have. Oh, wow. I really have. It's like, let's sit with that. Who you were and where you're at now. Wow, I'm proud of myself.
Yeah,
Exactly. And so I
yeah,
prepare it to where they can observe outside in the progress, the movement, take ownership, affirm within themselves and sit with it instead of be
powerful.
dependent external, instead of having that external validation, or or depending or seeking out that codependency, if you may, for that
Mhm.
validation for themselves. I want
Yeah.
them to feel empowered within themselves, so I'm very cautious on how I hardly ever use that term, "I'm proud of you," but what I do is I summarize what I want them to see.
hmm I think that's so much more empowered, right? To be like,
Right.
I want to reflect. I mean, this is our role as clinicians to hold up that mirror and say, do you remember what it's like when you started? Do you see where you're at now? That's a huge process for me with like graduating people from therapy. So I love that where I can gently remind them of how far they've come from like the facts of like, this is what you look like. This is what you said you wanted to work on. Here's what I see now. And like you, asking them to sit in it and recognize their hard work.
Right.
So this came up because I am a professor. So is Alex. We're helping form the next generation of mental health professionals. And this came up in a video role play. So, and then it also came up in a consultation. So it was just like two things in 2 weeks where I was like, huh, interesting. My stance is similar to Alex, and we did not coordinate shirts. I don't know why we matched, but that does not mean that we always think the same. But when I outreached Alex to do this video with me, it was because I wanted to talk about all the implications. So for me as a clinician, to say I'm proud of you is problematic because I work with people pleasers. So Alex works with trauma and addiction. I work with people pleasers, workaholics, high functioning anxiety. And so when we have that dynamic where we already have a power play of clinician and client, we want it to be as equal as possible. I mean, that's our ideal. They are the expert in their own lived experience. We're there to help guide and support, not tell them what to do. And so for me, the problem with I'm proud of you is it feels very paternal. It feels very like mother father dynamic where we've now created an inequality between us and them. And for a people pleaser, it can reinforce their behaviors of like, oh, I want more of that. I want you to keep praising me. So I'm going to keep doing what you're asking, even if it goes against their values, their own autonomy, which is a
Right.
huge problem. And
Right.
so that's kind of, for the viewers, that's where I'm coming from of why I would deter you from saying I'm proud of you. I told Alex offline the other reason I'm against this from a supervisor perspective is it feels like some sort of violation with our supervisees. For those of you who know me, know that my first supervision experience was less than stellar. And so to have someone say, I'm proud of you in that instance where they're already crossing boundaries feels like manipulation. And
Yeah.
so, that's my lived experience, which I know not all of our viewers are going to relate to that. So, what can we say instead of I'm proud of you? Alex gave a couple examples of helping reflect it back to the client. Kind of like volley it back is how I talk about it in class of like come back to their awareness, their focus. What are some other phrases, Alex, that we could say if we wanted to really celebrate a client's progress?
I think this is where the service plan, the treatment plan comes into play, where it's like, hey, let's do a summary of where you're at, where you, who you were, where you're at, and where you want to be, and allow them to do that inventory personally within their thoughts, their emotions, and then again, invite them to sit with it. And how does that feel? And how's that showing up in your body? You know me, I'm somatic. Where does it show up? Where do you feel it in your body? And how does that when you look at who you were and where you're at, how do you feel about that? Again, putting it back on them, and they're starting to have that verbal affirmation, and they're able to sit with that moment of pride, like, yeah, I've done my work. And so
Yeah.
again, reflection and summary of the progress that they've done. And honestly, when we are sitting with them and smiling and agreeing, it's
Mm-hmm.
it's that empowered piece. Like, yes, I agree with this empowerment piece that's coming from you, not that I'm telling you. Just it's just
Yeah.
there, yeah, like, yeah, I see that too. And
That's a
it's
good
very,
perspective.
yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
the nonverbals too. The nonverbals speak volumes of, okay, this is coming from me, I'm presenting it, and there it is. And
Yeah.
so just be very mindful. So what I tend to do is verbalize the progress, bring out the treatment plan, or see some, I use the who you were, who you are, and who you aspire to be, and then
Mm,
allow them to sit with that, those
yeah.
three. Yeah.
Super powerful. And for those of you who work with clients like I do that actually don't do well with compliments, this is a whole different growth edge to even just let them sit in their own progress, right? Versus I can say, I'm proud of you, and I can be like, haha, thanks, and move on out of discomfort. And also because they don't actually want to receive that. So I love Alex, your method, because it really does help them focus on themselves versus what it is for us. So I know this came up before we jumped onto the recording, which is also to have clinicians ask themselves, what's the purpose of that? Like if we have the urge to say, I'm proud of you, where's that coming from? Is that
Mhm.
our stuff? Is it their stuff? Is there another way to convey a feeling of happiness or joy or excitement for them if that's what's really coming up? Because I know the intentions of both the professionals I was talking to about this, their intention was to celebrate, to say,
Right.
you're doing a wonderful job. I see your hard work. And so, can those be the new phrases, right? Of like, I appreciate being part of your experience. I can see you're working hard. Like,
Mhm.
can we celebrate that together? Something more collaborative than
Right.
me to you saying, I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Alex?
Part of the same thing, especially when I work with clinicians. I always, and you've heard me say the I, intent versus impact. This is my
Mm,
intention. However, what's the impact? And the other piece I'm going to bring in here as well, especially working with Latin men, when you say, hey, if you were to say, I'm proud of you, they're like, there's going to be this aversion because of the machismo. Like, wait, why?
yeah.
Why are you saying this? Where is this coming from? And there's that tone of, sometimes because of their trauma or because of their past, or like, where are you going with this? And so we have to be very mindful on the receiving end and on your intention and how it's going to impact. That's why I go with the I and I. What's my
Mm-hmm.
intention? And if I do verbalize this, what's going to be the impact? And if in doubt, check it out. If
Yeah.
you're in doubt, step back and check it out, because at the end of the day, reframe it and be very mindful of that cultural piece as well. Because I know in the past with a lot of consultees, I've had clients tell Latin men or Latinx individuals, I'm proud of you. And they're like, why? I'm not saying I'm proud. What because you see that aversion. It's like, it's almost
Mm,
like I don't, and it comes from the clinician's own desire to affirm, to build rapport, when in all reality, this is not in the best interest of the client. It's to
yeah.
actually soothe you and to make you feel comfortable. That's your personal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's the things you need to work on, and it's showing up in the therapeutic room.
Right. Absolutely. So for viewers, it can be Alex's step, it could be my step of saying, what purpose would this serve, right?
Yeah,
Similar to Alex, like different verbiage, but same
yeah,
concept
right.
of if the purpose is to make us feel better as clinicians, that's something we just check and maybe even like hard check on that
Yeah,
versus is it really we want to express joy or excitement or enthusiasm with the client? There are absolutely other ways to do that than the phrase, I'm proud of you. So for anyone who's watching this video, that is the challenge we're giving you is what
yes,
can be authentic phrases that express how you want to feel or how you want to convey that to a client, or if you're a supervisor to your supervisee, that feels therapeutically appropriate or leadership appropriate, right? So depending on what hat you're wearing. With a client, we don't want to have a power imbalance. With a supervisee, we do have a power imbalance, but we don't want to make that worse by being like, I'm now parentified and telling you I'm proud of you. So this is my own personal tip. I really appreciate Alex coming on to talk about, his thoughts and feelings about it. Because I know that there'll be people who disagree with this video. We totally respect that.
totally.
To each of you, you have your own style, and we still want you to be aware of the implications for certain populations, whether it's addiction, trauma, people pleasing, Latinx. I mean, we've got lots of things to consider here.
Yes, definitely.
Any final thoughts, Alex, as we have people think about everything?
No, I just want to just be mindful that again, humanize the experience that we're two humans having a therapeutic interaction, and so we cannot separate the human from the profession. And so it's going to show up. These things show up, and that's okay. Just that's why we have consultation. That's why we have supervision to process it, iron it out, and don't feel shame or embarrassment when this does come up. Just process it.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of being a professional, a human in the profession. That's all it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, and that's the whole purpose of these videos. We're not here to shame anyone.
Yeah.
These two colleagues that brought this to my attention, I'm grateful to them because it causes me to articulate what I'm thinking about and why. To say this is one possible response to this, so that everyone can continue to explore it and grow. So yes, hopefully you're all thinking about your phrases, how you could convey what you want to convey with or without the phrase "I'm proud of you." And if you're willing to share, I'd love to hear what you come up
Yes.
with of other phrases because I think we could all learn from each other.
Correct. Correct. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Alex, thank you for being here. I really appreciate you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Awesome. Well, thank you, viewers. We'll see you in another video. Take care.